everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got some more Easter and spring DIYs to share with you that I think you're really going to enjoy. And I'm going to collaborate with my good friends today, and I'll talk more about them here in just a little bit. So if you want to know how to make them, stick around. I'll show you how. Thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Right, Maxwell? For this first one, I'm taking a scrap piece of wood that measures 8 inches, and I'm marking my center point, and then I'm coming down on both sides 3 3/4 of an inch and making a mark. And that's where I'm going to draw my peak from the top point to that line on both sides. We're going to create a house, and then I'm just going to take it outside and cut those 2 corners off. Okay, next I'm going to measure 10 inches from the top peak, and I'm going to draw a line across there, and that's where I'm going to cut the bottom of my piece of wood. We got our house shape. We're going to make our roof, and I'm just using some pieces from a stir stick that's a 5-gallon stir stick, and I'm going to come down 1 inch on each side on that peak. So overlap those at the top, and then mark your inch on the opposite side, and then just going to cut those off. So our little roof is going to overhang about 1 inch on both sides. And then just cut that piece off. I'm also going to create a base for this. I'm going to overhang it on each side, probably about 1/2 inch. And then just mark that, and we're going to cut that one as well. And then just make sure everything lines up right now. So if you need to make any modifications, you can. Next, I'm going to paint the sides, the front, the back, the bottom, everything with a rich black chalk paint. And I'm just using a chalk paintbrush to get it on here real good. You don't have to worry about getting your strokes up and down so well. You can kind of just do what you want to do on chalk paint because it just dries solid without any streaks. But just get it really filled in on the front and the back. Get all of it painted black. So I'm using some Crackle Medium by Folk Art. And I'm going to add a generous amount on here. The heavier you put your Crackle Medium on it, the more crack it does. Now you can use Elmer's glue for this same thing, but the heavier you put it on, the bigger your cracks will show up. And I'm just going to do it on the front only on this one, but I am applying a pretty heavy amount. And then once I get it on here, I am going to make my lines go straight up and down. I am going to smooth this out. I'm not going diagonal everywhere. I'm just kind of right now trying to get it on here. And then I am going to put my brush strokes up and down so that they're more uniform. And I'm doing the whole front part of this. And then you're going to set this aside and let this completely dry. So I'm coming up with some titanium acrylic white paint, and I'm going to brush this on really fast. Acrylic paint works the best for Crackle Medium as opposed to chalk paint, because chalk paint tends to start to dry quicker, and this stays a little bit damp while you're getting it on. That gets you an opportunity to really get it smoothed out good, but you want to work fast. You don't want to go over areas 2 or 3 times. And you can already see it starting to crack. And it's cracking big cracks because I am using the acrylic paint. But you can really see how much that cracked. While that's drying, I'm going to take a piece of cardstock, and I'm going to take a piece of tissue paper, just white tissue paper, just 1 layer. And I'm going to cut it out where it is a little bit bigger than my paper because I am going to tape this onto the back of my paper. And this way you can run it through your printer and you can get a nice decoupage piece without having to pay for a decoupage. And I'll give you the artwork for this one that I'm doing here too. And this is how pretty this one turned out on the tissue paper. Then you're just going to take your tissue paper, just gently remove it from the back. You don't want to tear it. And then again, the artwork will be in the description below. I've got several of them for you today. You can just download them and print them. And I'm printing this on just a regular inkjet printer. Once you get it removed, you want to start cutting around it, just carefully cutting around it. Get as close to the picture as you can. Now, where there's pictures or places where you can go between the ears, go between the ears because you want to try to get as close to the print as possible, leaving very little of the excess tissue paper on the outside edge. And do it kind of in shapes. Don't just do a square or anything like that. Kind of do some curves and kind of go down into the center of the ears and cut that out. But don't cut a square. Today's video is part of a DIY Spring collaboration. I'm collaborating with my friends Wendy, Linda, and Emily. I'll give you the link for the playlist in the description below. When you finish watching my video, be sure and hop on over and check out what these other gals have to offer. They are super talented and you will love what they're making. Be sure and check them out and let them know that I sent you. Next, kind of position your art exactly where you want it to be. Then we're going to take some Mod Podge and we're going to not take it off of there. We're going to lift up the sides and glue it while we're holding it. This will help you from using too much Mod Podge outside of the art area, but you do want to put a generous amount underneath your piece of art. And then you can go ahead and push down one side and then pull it back and do the opposite side. And then just take your hand to flatten it out. And then we're going to take some cellophane to put over the top part of it to really push it down into the grooves of that crack. And you'll be able to see all the cracking coming through the picture. It really does give it a nice look. But just take some time on this part and definitely use cellophane because that way you won't tear up your art. Okay, next I'm going to take some burnt umber acrylic paint and I'm going to paint my pieces. Now I'm going to take a sponge brush and I'm going to go over these pieces of wood kind of lightly to kind of give them more of a stained look instead of a painted look. And this went on kind of thin because I didn't put a lot of paint on my brush. To kind of just get it all smoothed out if you're doing it this way so that you don't have any stroke marks on it. To attach these, I'm just going to put a little E6000 glue onto the wood pieces, and then I'm going to put hot glue onto the actual frame or actual house. And then I'm going to attach these. Go ahead and take your two pieces of wood and put them on exactly at the same time just to make sure you do have it overlapping right, and then glue the other piece in. And then I'm going to line my house up at the very back edge of this little platform and center it in the center so that you do have a little overhang on both sides. Next, I'm going to make a little frame with another piece of the stir stick, and I'm just trimming it out with some smaller pieces of wood. And I'm just going straight. I'm not going to cut miter edges or anything like that. I'm just going to cut straight across for the top and then straight across for the bottom. Just kind of line them up, get them even. And then once you get them on there, then you can measure out your two side pieces. And we're actually going to build this on top of this piece of wood, not on the sides. This is just for measurement purposes. And I'm just going to assemble this with hot glue. So just put your two shorter sticks on top of the two longer sticks to build your frame. I'm just going to stain that with that same burnt umber paint. And I'm going to paint the front, the backs, and the sides. And then on my little block of wood, I'm going to paint the sides so that they'll all blend in together. For the top, I'm just painting it with some black chalk paint. Try not to get it on the edges, just try to get it on the very top only. Okay, next I just cut out some lettering that said Hello Spring with my Cricut, and I'm just going to center it right in the center of my frame. Now you could get lettering at Hobby Lobby or Michael's that say similar things to it as well. I think even Dollar Tree has some things like that. And then once I pull that off, I'm just going to center my frame right over the top part of it, and I'm just going to glue it on with some hot glue. And then I'm just going to attach it with some E6000 glue and some hot glue, and I'm just going to center it right at the very top. All right, and that was pretty much it. Look how cute that turned out. Next, I'm taking one of the Dollar Tree bunny signs. Now, if you don't have access to a Dollar Tree or one of these bunny signs, stay to the end of the video. I've given you a similar bunny in the description below. You can download it, print it, and you can cut it out of foam core board. Super easy, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, to cover my bunny, I'm going to use some of the Yarn Bee Perfectly Plush taupe colored yarn. Start right at the corner of the ear. I'm going to glue it to the front, then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to glue it to the back as well. And then I'm going to continue to wrap it as I'm going all the way down to the bottom of this ear. And then I'm going to kind of go fast on this so you can kind of see what I'm doing, but it's just, you're not going to sit there and watch me just sit there and wrap this. And then when you get to the top of this ear, you're just going to go all the way around till you cover it up at the top, and then you're going to cut it off. And then we're going to flip it over to the back, and we're going to start right up between the two ears to start our next piece of yarn. Just start right at that corner, and then we're going to have a gap here, but we are going to cover it up at the end on the back. But just keep pushing your yarn up because you want it to be as tight as you can get it. And you want to glue it on both the front and the back. And just keep going until you get all the way down to the bottom. Okay, once you get to the bottom, we're just going to go straight across. We're not going to try to do all the little curves. We're going to just go straight across. And in the one I've given you the pattern for in the description below, it'll have a flat bottom on it. But just get all the way to the tip of the two toes, and then it'll be flat across the bottom. Okay, next we're just going to fill in that little triangle right there with some more yarn, and then that will complete your bunny completely. Decorate my bunny. I'm just going to take a ribbon and I'm going to glue it across the front. And I'm going to leave my flap in the front because I'm going to cover it up with a bow. And then I'm just going to take a ribbon, fold it in half, find my center point, and then I'm just going to create a fake bow here. So just fold over the two edges and then overlap them in the center. And then just glue them together, and we're going to cover the whole thing up in the center with another piece of ribbon. Just kind of squeeze it all up there together and then just glue those two to the back. This is an easy way to make a bow, and then we're just going to cover the very center of it with another piece of ribbon and glue it around it. And we're going to kind of scrunch it up a little bit. We're going to pull it around to the back, glue that one in, and then we're going to glue the other one over the top of it. Just come around there, glue it off, and then just cut off the excess. And then pull your two sides down just a little bit. We're going to put a little bit of glue underneath those just to kind of pull them out like that. Just put a little bit of glue right underneath that side and do the same thing for the opposite side. And then I'm going to attach a flower right to the center. Okay, next I just took a piece of fabric. I cut it out with some pinking shears, and then I drew a line across on my paper so I can kind of see it underneath, so I can kind of make sure I get my letters straight. And I'm just going to stamp out the words Happy Easter. Then I'm using some of the Tim Holtz Walnut Distressing ink, and I'm just going to distress my little tag. Just kind of give it a little bit of an aged look to it. And then I'm just going to glue this to this ear, and then I'm going to put a little button right in the corner just to kind of finish it off. And that was pretty much it. This was pretty simple. And I'm adding a little felt ball to the back for his tail. All right, look how cute that turned out. For this one, I've given you the prints in the description below. Just download them and print them out. And then I'm using these 5x5 Gesso boards that I got at Hobby Lobby, but you can also just use a 5x5 canvas or something just close to it. Okay, next I'm just going to paint the front and the sides of this with some folk art chalk paint in rich black. This is a super fast and easy project. I just wanted to share this one with you. And I'm just going to cut my prints out with a paper cutter. And you're just going to kind of line it up right in the center where you see the black on both sides. And I'm just using some Mod Podge to attach this. I vignetted these pictures in one of my softwares, and it really does make the picture pop when you put it on a black surface with that vignette black all the way around it. So you can use any kind of print you want to. Just, bring it into, I think even Canva, you could do a vignette look to them. And I'm just going to center it right in the center, and I'm going to really smooth this out with a brayer. Just kind of line it up where you have the black all the way around it, and then just kind of smooth it out, and then just set it aside and let it dry real well. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing with my other print. Okay, after those dried, you're just going to put another coat of Mod Podge right over the top. and then let that dry. This was pretty quick and easy, and those turned out so cute. Okay, for this next one, I got one of these large eggs at Dollar Tree. They were $3, and I'm going to take it outside and I'm going to spray paint it with a flat white primer. And I separated my egg to paint it, and I'm just going with some sweeping motions, just lightly, and then I'm going to come back in and put another coat over it after it dries. Just take your time on this part and you won't get runs, and just kind of get away from your egg a little bit while you're spraying, and don't overspray in one area or you will get runs. And this only took about 2 coats to get it completely coated. Next, I got these napkins at Home Goods, and I'm just going to take the 2 backings off of this. This is a 3-ply napkin, and you're going to remove both of the 2 plies off the back. I'm going to use 4 napkins for this one. I'm going to kind of line them up, kind of stack them up where they're even, and then I'm going to cut them into strips. And I'm just cutting them into maybe about 3-inch strips. And then after I get my lengthways strips cut, then I'm going to stack them all up together, and then I'm going to cut my squares the opposite way. I'm just trying to make them all the same size or pretty close to the same size. And this was the easiest way to do that. And then just go ahead and stack them up, and then we're going to cut them the other way. And you can make these as small as you want to or as large as you want to, but when we're going to attach them, we're just going to kind of overlap them a little bit and kind of turn them in different directions as we're gluing them down. And I'm just using Mod Podge on this. I'm just going to put it on top of the egg at first. That's where I'm starting, and then I'm just going to kind of smooth that out. And then I figured out after I got a couple of them on that it was easier if you did cut a few little slits in them, and I'll show you that here in just a second. It just makes it lay a little bit smoother. And I am turning them diagonal like that every couple of ones. Don't put them all exactly squared off like that. Kind of move them around and put some in a square, then diagonal the next. Change up the shape as you're going down the egg. And then take some cellophane to kind of smooth it out. This way you don't tear your paper. Okay, and this is where I started cutting in them to slits on the sides. That way they can overlap each other and you're not having any wrinkles on it. Now be sure and get a napkin that has a very busy pattern on it. You don't want one that has a lot of white. You want one that's pretty solid like this, because it'll make your egg look so much better when you're finished. You won't see any of the lines and all that kind of stuff if you do it this way with a very heavy pattern paper. Okay, then I am going to start speeding this up so you can kind of see what I'm doing. But I'm just continuing to go all the way down to the bottom with the same thing, cutting all the little slits and just a single piece of tissue paper, and just keep going until you have it completely filled in. In reality, this took me about an hour and a half to completely do this. You could do these in stages, do part of it, and then come back and do the other part later. But definitely you want to use the tissue paper with the cellophane over it so you don't tear your paper while you're smoothing it out. When you get to this point, you want to turn it upside down to finish out the bottom. I learned this the hard way because I kept going around, and as I was leaning it over to the other side while I was putting the paper on the opposite side, my paper was pulling off onto my workstation. So definitely turn it upside down like this to finish it out. And the top of your egg should already be dry by now, so you won't have any problem with that. But just keep going, and we're going to continue to go until we have it over the ledge on the bottom. You want to make sure that you are covering up the bottom ledge. Okay, after that's dried, we're just going to add a coat of Mod Podge on this, and I'm going to put a pretty good coat on this because I am going to put this outside on my front porch, so I do want to make sure that it is sealed good. But just take your time on this and make sure that you get every bit of this coated. And this will also help if you have any of the paper that is peeled back or anything like that. It'll make everything lay flat. And then you want to set this aside and let this dry really well. Okay, after that's dried, I'm just taking a blue ribbon and I'm just going to go all the way around the center to cover up that line. So I'm just going to kind of start in the back, kind of pick the spot that looks the best for your front. And then we're going to start gluing it all the way around, but you're not going to put a lot of glue, just maybe a thin little bead, skip a little section, put another thin bead. You just want to make sure that it's not going to come through your ribbon. And this is kind of like a papery type ribbon I got at Hobby Lobby. It's a Robert Stanley, but it's not like a satin ribbon where the glue does kind of ooze up through. You just go all the way around till you get to the back and then just cut that off. And then we're just going to overlap it just a little bit. And next I'm going to take some of that same ribbon and I'm just going to make a faux bow. So I'm not going to tie it in a knot or anything like that. I'm just going to come to the back, loop it, come to the other side, make a loop, and then have a little tail coming off of that. And then I'm just going to glue all this together here in a second. And then you're going to cut one little piece off for the center. Then to create your bow, you're just going to kind of fold that over, put that little tail behind there, fold that one over on the opposite side, and then bend that one back like that. And then we're going to glue all this together. And then just put a little bit of glue on the back and then the inside of it just to kind of hold it together once you get it to this point. And then we're going to cover up the top part of it with a little strap to go around the center to snug this all together. And then just do it on the opposite side as well. And then I'm going to take that little strap in the center and I'm just going to wrap it around and finish it off into the back. And I am going to have to trim it a little bit because mine was a little bit long. And I'm just going to glue it right in the center where those two pieces overlapped. Okay, and then I am going to glue the little tails of my bow down, and then I decided to cut it a little bit shorter so I can get all my decorations on here. And I'm going to do the same thing for both sides. I'm just cutting a little bit shorter. Next, to dress it up a little bit, I'm going to add a couple of these little rhinestones. I'm going to go all the way around, kind of spacing them out about 1.5 inches apart. And I'm going to go all the way around the egg with this. And I'm just trying to make them very uniform all the way around. And you could put flowers or anything else like this on this. I just want it kind of a little bit simple. And that's what I did with this one. And then when I get to the end, after I go back to the beginning of my bow, I'm going to put one right in the center of my bow. And that was pretty much it. Look how pretty that turned out. Okay, I mentioned earlier, if you can't get one of the Dollar Tree bunnies to make the second project, there's a pattern in the description below. You're just going to download it, cut it out. It's going to take 4 sheets of paper. Just line up your images till you have your bunny complete, and then you're going to just tape this together. And then you can just cut this out of either a thick cardboard, or you can use a foam core board. If you're going to use cardboard, you're just going to cut it out with some cardboard scissors. If you're using foam core board, you're going to cut it out with an X-Acto knife. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope it gave you some inspiration to make some things for spring and Easter. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when I have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for watching, and don't forget, check out the playlist in the description below for some more Easter and spring DIYs. And if nobody's told you today, you're awesome. See you next time. Thanks for watching.